Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Songs of Healing podcast with Ian Taylor, a podcast where we explore the healing elements of song and songwriting and how they are used to heal and process life experiences. I am your host, Ian Taylor, singer-songwriter, coach, and humble student of life, offering my perspectives, wisdom, heartfelt honesty, and story. In this week's episode, we will be focusing on a song that I wrote during the pandemic called Turn Within. A song that came to me during one of those honest moments in quarantine we were all faced with. So please sit back, relax, grab a cup of tea, and listen to me tell some of my story. So, this is the second episode of this podcast, Songs of Healing, and this has been something I've been actually wanting to do for a couple years now. I really want to tell my story more, and also as an artist, I am understanding that it's important to have a lot of things going on around you, whether it be shows, whether it be albums or recordings or singles that you're releasing, whether it be your social media, or whether you have a podcast or have a podcast with somebody else and talk about stuff. But for me, I'm naturally a pretty introverted person. I've always had a very rich and vast internal world. And I always thought it'd be interesting to kind of get some of that out because, honestly, I have definitely carried a pattern and archetype of being shy and invisible. It's an interesting one for me because my friends, people that are close to me would probably say that I seem pretty gregarious. At least I've heard that before. But yeah, I think I definitely show up as an introvert, extrovert, I guess you could say. But there has been something inside of me, and I think that this has been my journey my whole life, that has been desiring more expression and more beautiful expression. Not to say that, I was going to say not to say that my expression is ugly, but I think I've struggled with feeling like my expression is ugly, hence the shyness. But through the work that I've done on myself, the therapy, I've come into the acceptance and realization that even if my expression is ugly, that's also beautiful. There's beauty in all of the ugliness as well, and how it creates a rich person. It creates a depth and a humanity to admit to our ugliness or the parts of ourselves we don't like, and to accept them and to see them as beautiful, which is really, that's like a master's path, to be able to accept all the things inside we don't like or all the expressions inside we don't like. Anyways, so this is my attempt to express myself more, to ground myself into who I am as an artist, establishing my energy in the world in that way, in a deeper way. I would say that I've spent a lot of my life refining my songwriting and my craft to a point to where it feels like very second nature to me. And people notice it, I notice it, all of the refinement that I've gone through in my songwriting, in my internal world, in my expression. So it has been a bit surreal admitting, or I don't know why I said admitting, it has been a bit surreal recording an episode of this podcast and then listening back to it to refine it, to get better at it, and how it's nerve-wracking for sure, because it's just me talking about me. And like I said, I will incorporate talking to other artists eventually, but for now, as far as me getting it started, me being an introvert, shy person, I need to just start with myself. Then I'll take the big steps to including other people, if I find that it's going well. But it's been feeling good. It felt good this week to have it. It felt grounding in a way that I was appreciating. So I moved to LA in 2019. Moved here from Northern California. And what had me make the choice to move to LA was I decided to study spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica. And I also worked there as well. It just so happened that I was able to land right into a job and start going to school, which I considered myself very lucky for, especially starting brand new in LA and having the security of something to move right into, and also interesting and spiritually led community that really, it was a school that taught how to live in God's light and to orient and recognize the love all around us. So it was a beautiful experience and really perfect for a landing pad for me into LA in 2019, especially because I was quite nervous about moving to LA. Had a lot of anxiety. Economically, I'd never lived in a place this expensive, although I did live in San Francisco, but I lived in Berkeley, Oakland, and was able to get by finding cheap rent in alternative living situations. So yeah, but moving to LA, it was a scary experience and also a very beautiful experience. So I went to school, worked, and then the pandemic hit. And completely, of course, as it affected everybody, completely sideswiped any plans that I had for my life at that time. And by the grace of well, I guess my luck, my sister and her fiance were living here. It's a part of why I also moved to LA. It was to be closer to them. I had family here, and just had a desire to feel closer to the familiar while I was studying in this beautiful school. And so luckily, when the pandemic hit, I was subletting an apartment in West Hollywood. My sister and her fiance took me in, and they lived in Malibu, so I was able to stay in Malibu while we all quarantined, sheltered in place during the world going crazy. I'm aware that I was quite fortunate to be able to have family in Malibu to rely on and fall back on during this time. So my heart goes out to people that really suffered during this time. I would say for me, even though the song that I'm going to be focusing on is much more positive and kind of spiritually rich, and I talk about seeing misfortunes as opportunity, I also am aware of how hard that can be and how hard it was, I'm sure, for many people during the pandemic. But for me, I definitely at this time was going through a lot of psychological issues. I mean, it was hard living with family too, It was a blessing, and also it was challenging because it's having to really deal with those family relationships that are easy to not deal with when we're so busy with our lives, with our own goals, with our own just personal busyness. So for me during that time, I went through a lot of sadness, went through a lot of depression, went through a lot of heartache around dynamics with women, went through a lot of pain in feeling like I didn't belong also in the University of Santa Monica while I was going to school there. I made some really tight friends there, and also it brought up a lot of how I feel so different from others and so dark and wounded compared to all these beautiful spiritual people. And it was all a projection, of course, but it was, at that time, a lot was highlighted for me, stuff that had been working in my ego that had been very painful and very hard for me to deal with. But, so this song actually did kind of come out of a sense of wanting to have compassion for myself, have a healing for myself, as well as others, because I am the type of person that really believes that my healing also contributes to the healing of others, to the healing of the planet. So this song had a lot of intention of being a healing balm for people at that time where we had no choice but to be with ourselves. So this song is called Turn Within. It came to me during the pandemic. During that time, I was really into focusing on prayer. I was really into just deepening my relationship to Spirit and God. So this song really kind of came from that energy at that time. Turn within. It's really turn within, turning within ourselves, because what else do we have to do at that time without all the busyness of work, of going outside of our homes, going to our jobs, dealing with those stresses, which we all discovered were actually distractions. So that's what this song's about. I'll play it, we'll play through it, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. I hope you guys enjoy it. So the time has come to turn within and slow everything down and let the healing begin, and to finally listen to that voice inside, whispering words of love you didn't know you were hiding. It's so warm in here, warm as the setting sun. in disguise, and to see misfortunes of life as a sacred design, and an opportunity to greet yourself at the door, entering a world within with so much to explore. It's so warm in here as the shining sun after a storm. It's so warm in here as the caring arms of a loved one. Ooh, you've been running your whole life, and you're scared of this dark thing inside. But I swear beyond this confusion you'll find the most glorious light. It's so warm in here, warm as a shining sun after a storm. It's so warm in here, warm as the carrying arms of a loved one. It's so warm and it's so warm and it's so warm in here. I think a beautiful part of being a introverted, creative empath is the very rich inner world of creativity that one can possess or dwell in. I know for me, there have been times where I have felt very soothed by my own creative world and the music that I create, the songs that I create. And this first verse, so the time has come to turn within, to slow everything down and let the healing begin. And to finally listen to that voice inside whispering words of love you didn't know you were hiding. I mean, I think we do actually have a natural loving essence inside of us, and that we also have a mind and an ego that throws up a lot of illusion that can separate us from that loving that is naturally within. I really think that humans at their core basic selves are actually caring, that great fulfillment and purpose comes from caring and loving. And that might be like a radical idea in this day and age, and maybe not, but I think that turning within to discover that aspect of ourselves, or not discover the aspect, but discover that truth, is really what we were facing in the pandemic. I mean, but it was challenging because a lot of what we were facing was hardship, hardship with being quiet with oneself. I think, yeah. So really that first verse is just I mean, the whole song has a vibe of caring, a vibe of warmth, and also a kind of inviting beauty to that world within, to that warm place within. Hence the repeating in, I guess, what could be the hook or the chorus, "It's so warm in here." When it can be very warm in there, inside. It can also be very scary. But this song is definitely, obviously, it is. It is the nurturing. It's about getting in touch with the nurturing aspects of ourselves.
It's so warm in here as the setting sun after a storm. It's so warm in here as the carrying arms of a loved one.
And in that chorus part, "It's so warm in here," and then there's those background vocals that are saying, "Warm as the summer sun after the storm, and warm as the caring arms of a loved one." I grew up in Maine, South Portland, Maine, on the East Coast, and I have etched inside of my soul the experience of the sun shining through after a dramatic thunderstorm, the sun breaking through the dark and ominous thunder clouds, and that kind of that experience of that sun really coming down on you and warming you. To me, it's such a nourishing experience, and I think that that's what I was trying to capture with that part specifically. And those backup vocals kind of being that warmth, being that comforting sun, and also the comforting arms of someone you trust and love.
It's time to recognize blessings in disguise, and to see misfortunes of life as a sacred design, and an opportunity to greet yourself at the door, entering a world within with so much to explore.
Yeah, again, what if we could perceive, or I mean, not to say that people don't, but perceiving our internal world as this like beautiful, majestic kingdom or land or world, other world to explore, where there's so many riches to find in our creativity, in our ability to kind of conjure magical things within. So it's like the idea of exploring our inner world, to me is, I think, what the world needs. And it's definitely, I think, what we were, what the big lesson was during the pandemic, during quarantine, is the turning our eyes to the world within and exploring it, and how there's a lot of beautiful things in there. And like I said, it's like, that's a challenging thing. I think that's a kind of like like I was saying at the beginning of this podcast, like to be able to see our ugliness as beautiful, that's a certain kind of intelligence and high form of viewing ourselves and viewing the world, I think. Also, it's not viewing that in a naive way, taking accountability for our actions, for our internal states of darkness, but also being able to take it into our hearts. I think that's actually where healing is. That is where healing resides, is our ability to love ourselves in all of our darkness and to love others in all of their darkness too. I've always loved the phrase blessings in disguise. It just, it's a positive spin on things that could be perceived as suffering, hardship, feeling unlucky, feeling misfortune. yeah, to see misfortunes of life as a sacred design. I've always been of the mind that we need to alchemize, or we can alchemize our hardships in life and perceive them as learnings, as development, as things that we grow from. For me, growing up in an alcoholic family, and kind of learning how to shelter myself from stressful, anxious, anxiety-ridden experiences, I've had to take on the mind that hardships are actually an important aspect of life. Which, of course, I mean, I think that it's an obvious thing, and I think it's actually hard to hold that perspective when we're going through challenging things. That this experience is refining us, is helping us grow, is also teaching us who we are, teaching us what we can handle, and building confidence that we can handle. Maybe what we didn't think we could before the experience of hardship happened. And I think that that's a sacred design when we do go through experiences like that, challenging experiences. I do think that that's kind of, that's God helping us evolve, helping us grow, kind of giving us a sacred hardship, a sacred experience of difficulty in order to grow, in order to learn more about ourselves, in order to grow past our edges of comfort. Because whether we want to admit it or not, or fess up to it or not, we are growing in this life, and we are learning to evolve past states of negativity and states of survival, states of dwelling in our wounded past and our wounded culture, our generational trauma and wounding, which is so raw in this world, which is so apparent in this world. I really think that a part of our duty on this earth now, at this time, is to heal and is to consciously go into life learning how to heal, learning how to live in integrity, learning how to come back to that deep caring and loving that is the truth of who we are, our natural expression.
Who you been running your whole life?
In that bridge, who you've been running your whole life, and you're scared of this dark thing inside. But I swear, beyond this confusion, you'll find the most glorious light. I mean, I think there is something that a lot of us, especially with trauma in our background, maybe that have addiction, maybe that have a tendency to be avoidant, that maybe are very busy with our lives, with our careers, with our school, with engaging with the outside world, with being in relationships, with jumping maybe from person to person, any kind of behavior of distraction. I really think that what we faced in the pandemic especially people who ran with that energy more, what we faced is that there's a dark thing inside that we've been trying to run from. I mean, I think it's a well-known story for someone going through recovery or someone going through therapy, coming to this realization of like, oh man, I'm just running from myself. I'm running from myself because I'm scared that like what is inside is ugly and too painful for me to deal with. And so, again, this song is just kind of, it's really like, the message there is really like, you can handle it. Like, you've been running your whole life because you're scared of this dark thing inside, but I swear beyond this illusion, you'll find the most glorious light. And it's also a message in there is, that fear of this dark thing, kind of a theme of what I've been talking about in this podcast, it's an illusion, It's a part of ourselves that we don't like, that we don't want to that we don't want to look at, that we would rather not acknowledge. But it's such an important part of our healing process to get back to that truth of care and love at the center of our beings, that is under all of the illusions of who we are, not of who we are, of who we are afraid we are, or who we think we are. Because when we can create illusions with our mind and our egos, and it's to keep us safe. That's all really the ego is. It's kind of like especially when it comes to trauma and staying comfortable in something and being stuck in patterns that are detrimental. It's that it's a protection. It's because we're scared to really look at that thing that we feel like is dark, when actually, if we really do the work to look at it, we'll see that it's the most beautiful light. It's actually probably the most beautiful aspect of our being that will refine and define who we are as individuals and our authenticity. That's actually where a lot of our treasure is. What is the Joseph Campbell quote that I'm thinking of right now is like, the cave that you're scared to go into, that dark, dank cave, that just seems so terrifying that you don't want to enter into. That's where all your deepest treasures lie.
It's so warm in here. It's a shining sun after a storm. It's so warm in here as the carrying arms. It's so warm and
So I'm really ending the song on the kind of playful note with those falsetto, staccato, rhythmic vocal parts. And it's also just a positive affirmation of it's so warm in here. It's okay to come in here. It's okay to turn within and see what's in there and explore like it's a playground of a new world. And get in touch with your creativity, get in touch with the beautiful light that is there under all of the scary kind of illusions that's blinding us, keeping us from seeing the truth of caring, loving for ourselves and for others. So that was it, Turn Within. I hope you guys appreciated it, enjoyed it, and that you can relate to the things that I've been expressing here.
it's so warm in here.
enjoyed this week's episode of the Songs of Healing podcast. And just remember to take time to turn within and acknowledge all the beauty inside of yourself. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll catch you next time.